Hello YouTube, this is ibuprofen here once again with Nugs Bunny. Tell me what you did last week.
We got top 64. Wish it was a little bit higher. A couple of my friends got a top 32 and an invite, but top 64 X2.
Congratulations,
at the top regional last weekend.
And I see that you brought Lucci.
Yep, Lucci was the man again for this regionals. Felt really nice into the meta. I was running it all formats, so it feels good to be back on the same thing that I've always been on.
No, for sure. With I know in OP07 you got top 8 at Gen Con, transitioning into OP08 with the next set. Can you just break down your deck and just see what minor changes or big changes or spices that you have in there?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's get into it. So a lot of it's going to look the same from the Gen Con list, of course. There are, of course, some changes still. Force Spandom needs no introduction. That's your searcher. I don't think you want to go down to 3 of this because there's really crucial cards. Obviously, you want to see the Lucci. And speaking of, we got the Lucci coming out. So obviously, you want to see this guy. This is why I run Force Spandoms, honestly. And another card that you might have seen in the last video as well with me. I really want to search both of those cards with Spandom. So you want to see him firsthand, and you want to go first in this meta a lot to see Jack on curve. So Spandom going first is brilliant.
For sure. So when you play Spandom, are you hoping to find Lucci in the trash or in your hand? Or does it depend on the situation?
Always depends on the matchup. Sometimes, depending on what I have in hand. You know, if I have a Gecko in hand already, and then I have plays on the 1 to 7 Dawn, depending on, you know, what turn I'm going, then I might just opt to have the Lucci in the trash to set up for later. But if I really need it in the hand just to get a play on the board with the Lucci, you know, don't underestimate just raw playing a Lucci. Clears two bodies still.
Oh, that's crazy.
So we'll go into the Spandines are next. Obviously, I just run the 2 of. A lot of people like the 3. I just don't really have much trouble finding it. Never really had too much trouble not having it in the grave. And I don't think a 3rd would have been too much more impactful. So I like the 2. Keep space for a lot of other things. We're going into the 2Ks next. This is another kind of opinionated piece, but I am subscribed to the 3 and 3.
3-3.
And the Who's Who instead of the Kaku. I think a lot of people, me included, were messing around with the other Kaku and the 2K one. I don't hate it, but I do really love the Who's Who. Alongside the Kaku, I was running the 5-cost Kaku to KO a 3-cost, and so many times I'm like, 3-cost is nice, it's a nicer hit, but I feel like I want to swap it out with something, and then I realized, you know, just go back to the Who's Who. Also still KO's a 3-cost, and it's a 2K, so you know, you get the best.
How many 2Ks are you running in this deck in total?
These 6, and then 2 more you'll see a little bit
total
later.
8, okay.
Yeah, so it's just the 8.
Okay.
I see a lot of people bumping up the Khalifas, or if they're running the Kakus, bumping up one or more of those, but I like the 8. I like the 8. Just the 1/6 King Pistol. This is one of the changes from the Gen Con list. I bumped it down to the 1. I don't hate the 2 for sure. You're running a lot more bricks in this list as well, so 2 does feel nice. It's just deck space. You don't have a lot of deck space, and if you're drawing other cards instead of a 6 King, it's fine. Going into the Tempest kicks, don't worry, there is 4 of them.
I was about to say, I was like, yo, that's crazy.
No, that is hella troll. You got to run 4 of this. Needs no explanation.
That cycle's just too crazy. Being
It's
able
too
to
good.
draw -3.
The one thing I will say is I do not run too many. I don't like to use this too often going first unless I have a lot of other cost reduction options in hand. This is valuable. Cost reduction is so premium in this deck, and you know, just throwing it for 1 draw that you're going to get 1 card sooner sometimes can really be nice, but you're never going to know what that card is, obviously, so it's always going to be a risk. And if you don't have other cost reduction in your hand, you might have just thrown away -3 that could be super crucial later.
And I feel like that comes with the reps, right? Just being able to identify that.
Pretty much, yeah. You can just kind of recognize the situations where you're going to need this late game, or it's going to be a super huge card late game that you really need the -3, or some matchups or some situations where you don't need it as much, and you can have the draw one. I drew one today at locals on first round because I had this and then an Ice Age in hand.
Shoot,
so
the soap sheep.
I just figured I wanted to draw. This is the other card you want to search with Spandom. And so having Spandom and Lucci, grabbing that combo, especially if I'm going first, having this for 5 Dawn, beautiful. You can't argue with it. That's why I like the 4 Spandom, so I can search this more. A lot of people are running the Uta as well, I'm noticing. That's kind of becoming a little bit more of a trend. I still like the Soap Sheet, man. I still love this. It's searchable, it's 1 cost, and it hits 2. Obviously, it doesn't stay on the field, but any respectable deck in this meta is going to be able to get rid of that Uta. Don't need to swing into it. And especially if you're respecting the mirror, especially if you're respecting black yellow, they're going to be able to get rid of it. It's not going to do a ton. So Soap Sheep's really nice, especially in the situations where you need to get those cost reductions down.
I see that.
Trigger, kind of nice too. Trash a card from the hand, hit that on black yellow players all event, and they're like, that's kind of good, man. I need all those cards.
Yeah, especially because it's not dead, because you know, it's very difficult to remove bodies when you're playing against the black yellow Luffy.
Right.
So like, it's not a total dead card if it comes from trigger, just making them lose card advantage. And
exactly. Usually in that matchup, you want to see these or these Ice Ages. So Soap Sheep might not be as valuable there. So if you get it off the trigger, it's like, I already got cost reduction. Let's get rid of a card from your hand. And of course, 4 Ice Ages. I think this is also pretty mandatory. When you have the mirror with Jack, when you have, you know, Bonnie still running around, when you have black yellow obviously on the map. 4 Ice Age is nice. We don't have stage anymore, so you just sub it in with the Ice Age.
Yeah, that reach is deep. You know, you play Jack, and then if they Gecko Moria, you can answer that Gecko with the Ice Age, right? Ice Age Jack and
Ice Age.
That's crazy.
You can go Ice Age and then Gecko with a Helmeppo as well. Gets it down to that's an 8 with leader effect is a 2, so depending if you have a Jack on field or a Lucci Grave, it's perfect math for it.
Removing multiple bodies. Annoying. You find it beautiful. I find it so annoying. Oh my goodness.
Pre-Ice Age, the Soap Sheeps mark the end of the CP engine. So this is the CP engine, obviously. We have a fair amount of cards to search with it. That's why I like the Force Phantoms, obviously.
Yeah.
But
you don't miss.
Exactly, man. Well, you'd be surprised.
No, I know.
That's a different story. They still put 3 cards in the trash. We're back on 4 Rebecca's. I believe I was still on 4 Rebecca's in the Gen Con list. Cards just insane, obviously. I feel like this doesn't need much explanation.
No, I agree. The recursion ability is just too nuts. And like, against the BY matchup, being able to play that, grab a Sabo, and just like buy yourself some turn as they like burn themselves out, like it's pretty critical.
Speaking of
hello.
So we're running 3.
He wasn't in the last list, right?
He was not. For a very good reason, I think. Red Purple Law was obviously a huge villain in the format. I thought Lucci and Law were the 2 best decks of the format. So you got to respect both. And instead of Sabo, that list, I ran the Borsalino. And I thought that was a great call. 4 costs instead of 5 for doing basically what Sabo's going to do, minus 2 cards that you're going to draw, obviously. The cycle's nice. But into Law, these are the same card, essentially. So I'm paying 1 Dawn for less. Now that he's out of the format, this card is crazy again. Like you said, grabbing it with Rebecca, protect your whole board in the mirror. It's beautiful.
Is the Borsalino a 1-of now?
Borsalino's the 1-of. This is the
right on.
Borsalino now. I couldn't part with it, but I really like it as the 1-of, honestly. Obviously, this could be a 4th Sabo. You probably wouldn't have too much problems. You probably wouldn't worry about it too much. I like the 4th Borsalino. You throw it in the grave with your Gecko. This is an immediate threat in the mirror to just put down, and they can't get rid of it all game. It's the same thing as what I was running last time. It's for the mirror. It's brilliant. Yeah, so many times that it's like you have these 2 options to get out, and this can give you a 2K or this can give you a blocker that's not going to be KO'd. And one of those things might win you the game, and one of those things might give you a sack. So it just depends on the situation once again, but just having this option, as soon as you mill it in the grave, it's live with a Gecko. If you have it in hand, you obviously can use it immediately. It's brilliant. I love the card.
And what else is in there?
We're back on 2 Brooks.
Okay,
still on 2 Brooks. I see varied numbers on this. I think 2 is probably absolute minimum. You probably wouldn't go wrong having more. But again, I feel like deck space in this deck is super crammed. I had to cut so much stuff and like have really weird ratios, I feel like, on some of these things maybe. Obviously the 1 Borsalino might be testament to that, but 2 Brooks felt nice, you know. You get it down early, it's another cost reduction early into some of the weirder decks, like you have Zoro obviously running around. Still nice into the Bonnie matchup for the small searchers. Nami matchup's brilliant.
And we'll talk about your matchups, right? Because I'm curious.
Of course,
you know,
we'll talk about some matchups.
Break it down. Oh,
Big
of
Dog
course.
Gecko, once again, needs no introduction, needs no explanation.
Expect nothing less, you know?
He's the dude.
All your combos just freaking go off with that one guy.
Absolutely. So the top end's definitely changed from Gen Con because we got new cards. So Gecko obviously stays at 4. We're no longer running Isho. We're no longer running Saba. We have Jack in the format now.
Okay.
Dude's insane. +4 cost on field. You play it on curve, and a Gecko can't respond to that by itself. So
yeah, its 11 cost is crazy.
It's crazy. You have to do so much more and put down so many less bodies. Basically, use all your Dawn for cost reduction, and then play like a Lucci or a Brook that you can then respond your own with another Jack or a Gecko or whatever you have.
Is there a reason why you run 3 versus 4?
So really, it's one of those things where you only need to get one on the field and have it stick. In matches like the Mirror, you might want to see more than one just because there's the potential that it can get KO'd at some point, or if they have enough and you haven't seen them use a lot of cost reduction. But a lot of the time, when I have one in hand and I have one on field, I'm just pitching the one in hand. It's one of those things you really only need to see one of in a game, especially on curve. And after that, you don't really need to see extra copies. You'd rather see a Gecko to supplement the Jack. You'd rather see other pieces to supplement the Jack.
That cycling's crazy.
Yeah. So once you get it landed on field, you really just want to protect it and then make sure it stays on field. You don't need more. And the other big drop we got, Kaido.
Oh, Kaido?
This is a new addition. Definitely something I was messing around with early and something I wasn't privy to early. Shout out my boy Reezy Connor. Got me in on this early. I was on the 6 cost Brook still, but just having the response for the Gecko and the black-yellow matchup, they put it down on 8. On 9, you swing, reduce something, the Gecko, and then immediately respond to the Gecko, whereas with the Brook, you can't do that on 9 without extra cost reduction.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're hitting a Sabo, and then they still have the big Gecko on the board.
Do you also need to... Does your opponent pitch a card? I'm not
Your
too
opponent
familiar.
discards a card. So
oh my goodness.
What this card does, it's essentially an on-play, but it's an activate main, trash a card if it's played this turn. So again, essentially an on-play, but trash a card from your hand, trash a 7 cost, and then your opponent discards a card. Their choice, of course, but still -1 card from their hand to keep up with your trashed card. But instead of that, you know, they kept up with the trash card that you did, but now you've got a 9K on the board and you just got rid of their Gecko or whatever card they had, right?
Oh, that's crazy.
Obviously, the trade-off here is the Nami matchup's a little bit worse because you don't have that 6 cost. But what I find is this is still decent in a pinch because, again, they have to discard that card. And a lot of times what you'll find with Nami is they want every single card in their hand. Every card is valuable. If it's not a counter event, then it's something that they want to set up for a Kaya or they want to bounce or what have you. So still comes in handy. Just get rid of cards from your opponent's hand. Keep up that tempo.
Well, this is kind of spicy. That's what's up.
Nothing crazy going on with these last few. Just some cost reductions.
The last 2. These are the last 2Ks? Okay.
Yeah, these are the last 2Ks. I was messing with... I think it was either that or that for a while, and again I just kind of wanted to mess around with ratios, move some cards around, and ended up back on 2 and 2. Not too much to say about this. Really like the 2-2 ratio. You get him in the grave when you need to. This is both of these honestly, but Suru as well. I feel like more people are probably tentative to play it out from hand. This is just as good as a cost reduction as a 2K. That's why I do like running the 2 of them, because you know you can use it as either purpose. But again, both of them super nice to have in hand if you need to. You can obviously Helmeppo into Jack. You can obviously Suru into Jack on both 8 and 9. So it helps you give really good valuable Jack plays earlier.
No, I think people forget that you can grab Suru from trash off a Gecko as their cost reducer. I think a lot of people like look at their trash and they get flustered because they're looking for the Helmeppo. The Suru is like so good as well.
Definitely. And yeah, something that you can do now all the time with Jack on the field. You go Gecko to these 2, or even better, obviously, everybody knows the Spanding into Lucci.
Oh, that combo. Crazy
but now
combo.
We can, where are my 2Ks?
That's what I'm saying. 8 2Ks, that's crazy. Where's your 2Ks?
Can't even find them when they're organized. I brought a Jack out to represent Gecko as well, I just realized. But instead, now you can, instead of bringing out Suru, you can go Helmeppo Khalifa, draw 2, trash 2. This is still the same amount of cost reduction, and Jack on field will get you.
So that's 2, 3, leader ability 1, so that's 6. with your jack popping a 3, 6, 7, 8. Now you can pop a 9.
That's right. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
It's very nice, very nice. And obviously that's just with a gecko. So any additional cost reduction will hit 10 and 11. What's an 11? Well, jack. That's the list. Nothing crazy. I think a lot of it explains itself. Probably the Borsalino is the only crazy spicy thing, and obviously Soap Sheep. But Soap Sheep's crazy. Soap Sheep.
No, that's coming. That's coming. 8.5, right, and 9 as well.
Y'all better get on it, bro. Soap Sheep forever. You heard it here first.
Well, so you went top 64.
Top 64.
What was your matchup spread? So did you go like X3? Like how many matchups? I'm not quite sure.
It was X2.
X2.
Yeah,
Oh, X2. Okay.
I'm very sour about it because found out afterwards my boy that also finished X2 lost the exact same rounds that I did, round 4 and round 6. He finished top 32 again, got his invite. So
bless him.
I was a little bit upset, but yeah, real glad that he got in. So first round was actually a no-show, kind of.
We take those. I take those.
The guy showed up. His mic was kind of cutting out. All I heard was, "You got it," but I'm going to keep playing. So I don't know what his plan was anyway.
We know what his plan was. He's just trying to get the prizing.
Right. Anyway, so that no-show, we got Blue Doffy next round.
Oh, okay.
That was pretty solid, just Soap Sheep on him. Kind of cleaned that one up.
Yo, real quick, shout out to the homie Pac-Man Special. He was the Doffy player round 2. Huge fan of his channel. Great dude overall. Make sure y'all check him out. Show him some love.
Black Yellow Luffy on the next round. Took that one. That was a wild one. I did not let them awaken the entire game. They were sitting at 2 life forever. At one point, actually, I was sitting on 6 cards or so in hand, all bricks. And he had I think it was Makino and a Garp out. He was swinging into me. With 5 Dawn left over, he swings into me, triggers a Who's Who. And I'm looking at 5 Dawn for his Garp. A 7K is pretty crazy, enough to actually lethal me. So I trigger it on the Garp, and I'm thinking to myself, 6K with the Makino is a lot less appealing than 7K with the Garp. He's not going to do that. And he didn't go for lethal, and I just, on the response, can't remember what I swung for lethal, but just swung in numbers, got it. Showed him afterwards. He wasn't too happy. But
of course. Yo, that sounds epic.
That's crazy.
That's always a big win, though, when you're Lucci playing in the BY and you take it, just because I feel like it's such an unfavorable matchup. Like, it's so hard.
I've practiced that matchup a ton, and yeah, it's a lot of repeated decisions that you just like have to keep up and like keep a good game state, keep healthy life, like keep loggers on field. There's a lot of things you have to maintain in that game.
Wait, before you move on, any tips for these Lucci players,
Do not swing.
Oh.
Do not swing life, all right? Just don't swing life. The only time you should ever swing life is if they have a 5-cost Luffy on the field that's going to give them a life anyways, and you need to reduce that sucker. Do not worry about it. Just don't swing life. Play down blockers. Protect life early and get your top drops really fast if you can.
You make it sound so simple, but, that's so hard.
You asked me for the simple.
Oh, no. You heard it here, folks.
Next round was a Bonnie that I actually lost to. I believe they got 12th overall, so they ended up doing pretty all right. But that match was crazy. I got Jack on curve, so I played it down to KO his Eroge. The next turn, he plays 8-cost Rosinante to play out a Bonnie to freeze my Jack. Okay. Can't remember what I did the next turn, but I KO'd his 8-cost Rosinante, so he still has the Bonnie on board. Plays out a 10-cost Doffy to once again freeze my Jack. Okay. I can't remember if I cleared the Doffy or not, but that's irrelevant because next turn, sure enough, another 8-cost Rosie into a Bonnie, freeze my Jack. And at this point, for those 3 turns, like basically Jack was my only option. Like I said, I might have KO'd. I'm almost certain I KO'd the first Rosie. Might have KO'd the Doffy when he played the 10-drop. But at that point, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Jack's going to be unfrozen next turn. Okay, cool. Jack's going to be unfrozen next turn. And it just never was. So 3 turns, keeping him frozen. That's pretty good. If you ask me, it's probably how you win that matchup as Bonnie. So they did end up getting that one on me. And then clapped back the next round in the mirror. I always like playing the mirror, honestly. I think I'm pretty solid in the mirror, so I really like just kind of flexing on the mirror and being the better Lucci.
No, for sure. That's just a grind, dude.
It's a huge grind, yeah. It's another one of those things. You got to see the right pieces and maintain the right board state. Next round was a crazy one. It was another black yellow Luffy, the boy Josh Graham, Impact, shout out to him. That was a crazy game as well. I really did not have like any tempo early, so he just kind of was able to, he played all 4 Sabos, but he saw all 4 Sabos like super early. So he was like Sabo, Sabo, Sabo back to back with 3 like super early, and then just saw Awakeners as well. So he was able to get pretty awakened, not like super early, but relatively early enough so that he could start dropping some geckos. And obviously, again, he had the Sabos all game, so I couldn't KO anywhere in the beginning of the game.
That's tough, like seeing like a high caliber player into an unfavorable matchup.
So it was right after he dropped his black yellow masterclass too. So that was awesome to see. After that though, we won out. So we played a purple Luffy.
Oh shoot! Okay.
That was another wild game. Just because I don't think I saw many pieces on my side, and I just had to be really aggressive and just kind of, you know how you play in that matchup. You just gotta make him take life and then just put him on having the right cards. But he didn't see any rush, I believe, was what it really came down to at the end of the day.
He didn't see the Kaido?
Yeah, I think he kept playing the 9 moms, and one of the turns he healed me where it was like I was actually looking pretty tough for lethal, and then he heals me one with the 9 mom, and I'm like, okay, I'm actually looking kind of nice now. After that, another Bonnie matchup, took that one. Nothing crazy there, you know. He didn't freeze my Jack 3 times in a row, so we take those. And then a Zoro matchup after that where I didn't see Lucci until I think like the last turn or something.
Oh, shoot.
Shit was wild. But yeah, I think I saw like some jacks or something, so I ended up having to just like play super defensive early. I like opened a jack, so played super defensive early, and I just played one of those down.
Normally, because I feel like the animal chopper or the animal Zoro package is becoming more prevalent, and I keep hearing that that matchup is becoming like slowly more favored for Zoro because they're able to go so wide. As a Lucci, I don't think that's the case because you have Lucci. No, you don't think so?
There's no way, dog.
I'm getting fed misinformation.
There's no way, dog.
How would you advise people to play into that matchup as Lucci? Because I feel like the Zoro is becoming more of a prevalent deck. I see that.
Maybe if my hand's something like this, like you're gonna be able to cut through, but like, dog, that's not realistic.
Okay. It's just a removal build, right?
The deck has so much removal options, seriously. Zoro has to play so much out of hand that if you don't hit their life and you don't focus on their life, you only focus on board, they're going to run out of answers very fast. You only can run 4 of the event, obviously, so they're only going to have 4 of the Searcher event. And after that, they have the Searcher Chopper, but again, cards from hand every time, cards from hand. At least the event searches from the top of the deck, so you really have to starve them down. Obviously, Lucci MVP, but again, Soap Sheep goes crazy in that matchup. They put down 2 3-cost choppers. All right, but minus both.
Lucci.
What do we care? Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I really don't see the problem with Zoro at all. I don't exactly anticipate a situation where that would be an unfavorable matchup outside of completely bricking and again not seeing like Lucci or really any early game options at all, because if you think about it, any early game option, blockers, Sabos, 2Ks, you got your Brooks, they're gonna do something for that matchup that gives you not necessarily an advantageous position, but like does something to directly respond to what they're doing, right? You're putting down blockers, you're obviously going to block what they're doing, especially if it's Rebecca, you can grab a card back. You're playing down your Brooks, you're going to be KOing things. You're playing Sabos, you're going to be cycling, hopefully getting down deeper in your deck, and also it's a blocker.
Yeah, Lucci does what Lucci does, right?
A lot of the pieces in
remove
the deck
while
really,
building board. That's
really
crazy.
Play well for it, so I don't really see it.
Oh my! I'm out here spreading misinformation. I'm a big Zoro stan.
No, that being said, I actually do think I was somewhat bricked up in that game going into the last turns. Now that I think about it, this was one of the matchups that I wanted to talk about because it was wild. It ended up being that I wanted to either draw a blocker, clear board, and put him on having a Jombe or a rush, something to that. Put him on drawing the Carver lethal or just going for it. The caveat for that was he was at 3 life and I didn't have super big swings and ended up just swinging like 6s and 7s and 8s just to swing through all 3 life per game. It was wild.
Oh.
It was one of those like, yeah, take it. Yeah, take it. All right, swing this one. Like, you got it. Yeah, take it.
So he was also bricked up towards the
yeah,
end.
Exactly.
Oh, dude.
And again, it's one of those things. The deck doesn't run that many counters. They got to run all these rush characters. They got to run all these choppers. So they're going to be somewhat bricked up as well.
Wait, was that your last match?
The last match was another purple Luffy.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Which was another crazy one. And I think that was another one that he either needed to top deck or rush, or I needed to not have the exact counter I had in the last turn. So again, it came down to the last turn. I didn't have any geckos that game, if I remember right. So it was either just jacks and then, just relying on board. But it was a pretty wild game. I remember that purple Luffy game being the more stressful of the two, obviously, because it was the last game and I was like sitting on X2 that whole time. So X3 obviously is getting me nowhere. X2 only got me 64, but as it turns out, I ended up taking it. I'm almost certain it was just he didn't have enough rush at the end. I think he played a Frenosuke to rush out.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't feel
good.
good.
Counter for it, so. Yeah,
and we keep saying top 64. Where would you actually finish? I think it was like 50 on the dot, right?
Yeah, 49th. I think,
49. So it's still a really good showing, especially with a big tournament. Was it 10 rounds?
10 rounds.
10 rounds going
Big
X2.
10.
That's literally a marathon, and like congrats, dude.
I appreciate it. Yeah, losing round 4 and round 6, and then winning out felt pretty good. Wish I had a better showing for it, but. I take the X2, I take the top 64, and we go on to the next one.
No, for sure. Talking about the next one, in a couple days, a perfect transition.
In a couple days.
It's going to be 8.5 where the new structure decks are coming out. What are you planning on putting into this Lucci deck to make it more competitive with the power boost that the Doffys are getting, the power boost that red decks are getting, as well as, like you said, purple Luffy sounding more prevalent, people getting ready for these structure decks? I feel like I know, but show YouTube, what card are you thinking about adding more of?
All right, YouTube, again, you heard it here first from the Gen Con video. Go rewatch that if you don't remember. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of this card coming into the 8.5 meta. I don't think there's a ton of new card additions, as it were. But again, same reason for Law, same reason for Doffy. -2/-2, leader effect, gets rid of 2/4 costs with the Lucci on 5. If they play out a Jinbei on 4, this will be an immediate answer. This card's really good.
I feel like Nugs here has been day one when it comes to the Soap Sheep. So
Soap Sheep forever, man.
Straight up believer.
Soap Sheep forever. I might bump it up for sure. Again, when you have the 2 in there, you're running the full 10 package of cost reduction, not including the series of the Helmeppos. So this is like 10 one cost reduction events, which still feels pretty nice. I think I missed an Ice Age somewhere in there.
But it's 4/4/2.
4/4/2. Still feels really nice. And so if you bump this up, obviously, 2 more bricks. You might be bricking up on cost reduction sometimes. So there might be some ratios to mess around with. I don't know if it's just a direct throw 2 more in, take two of something out, and then run with it. But it'll be definitely something to test out. I think you're going to see a lot more of that card coming in the meta.
Heck yeah. And where else can players find you? I know you just did this online regional top 64. In my opinion, big deal. Where can other players start seeing you pop up at? Do you have more online events going on? Are you having any in-person before nationals?
I'll probably be trying to get into this online this weekend. Didn't actually make it in time. Had other plans that fell through. So see if we can get in the wait list. Otherwise, this is actually going to be the last Lucci event for the foreseeable future. We're going to be swapping to Doffy, and I'm going to be over at San Diego for the regionals over there, and then Dallas in December, I believe. So we're going to be running it back for a few of them. I don't know if there's any online regionals in between then, but if there are, I'm always trying to rep it out. So
for sure, and
see me there.
And based on the consistency in your previous, your past history of topping top 8, top 64, doing so well in the local events, I have no doubt that you're going. We're gonna hear about you during Eggman. When he drops that video in a couple of weeks. Real quick, because it sounds like this is rest in peace to the boy. We're gonna transition into Doffy for 8.5 and probably in 9 as well.
Probably, yeah. It'll be one of those things where I'll test out the format, see how it feels, feel out the matchups, and kind of go from there. Obviously, gone but not dead. I'll still be playing him here and there. We'll still be messing with the lists, seeing how the matchups feel. But it'll be a lot of doffy for sure. So 9 will be just kind of dependent on how 8.5 was feeling, how I felt about the matchups, and if I do any testing in the ahead of time period, then how I feel about the future matchups.
No, for sure. And I still think Lucci is a really strong medical.
Oh yeah, do not get me wrong. Again, gone but not dead for me. This leader is really huge in the meta still. Black, yellow, Lucci, and doffy are going to be the big 3. So do not discount him. Continue to watch out for him because he'll be running around for sure.
And I feel like I took up a lot of your time. So
Not
let's wrap this
I'm happy
up.
to be here. I feel like I'm taking up your time.
No, you're good. Real quick before I let you go, do you have any shout outs? I see you have a new fancy mat. Is there, what is this TOTL that we speak of with matching sleeves?
Shout out my sponsor as always, Total Games.
Sponsored player.
They're truly the best. Don't need a business card this time around. Finally got the mat and the
Everything
sleeves
came
in.
through. I like it.
They're great. Themselves, the mat and everything. They treat me great. They're a great business. Obviously support them if you can, if you're ever in the area. Aside from that, big shout outs to our work in Discord, to my playtesting group, to all the boys that I play with, even outside the playtesting group. And as always, if I forgot you, I did, and you're still in the heart.
In the heart.
Appreciate y'all.
Someday